Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new session with the Rights and Responsibilities Awareness Initiative. Today, we have Daniel Barreiras to speak about the Registered Saving Plan. We will just need to give some time to allow other people to join us, and after that, we should be okay. Thank you, Dan, for joining us today.
Oh, wait, now I'm unmuted. Thank you very much for having me today here, Haitham. I'm sorry we had a bit of a problem with logging into Zoom, but I'm in here and it looks like Megan is just logging in right now. There we go, Megan's in too.
Hello, Megan, and welcome. So we still have 30 seconds before we go live.
Sure.
And that would give a little bit of time for other people who would like to join us today. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Actually, maybe we can start with a bit of an intro for Megan and myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we still need.
Yeah. Sorry. So my name is Dan Barreiras. So I am a personal banking specialist at Libro Credit Union. I've been offering these presentations and working with Haitham in the Rights and Responsibilities Awareness Initiative for about a couple of years now. And I really love it doing these presentations. First, it gets me away from my regular work. So normally I'm opening up accounts, I'm working with clients here, setting up new accounts, setting up loans, mortgages, doing some like very little bit of investing. But what we do here at Libro is we try to say that we are coaching owners too. So what we're doing here is trying to coach or try to share some financial literacy or basic info about RESPs today. So this presentation that we're offering, it's part of a program called Each One Teach One, where we go out and we're just sharing the info. We're not trying to sell anything at all. Just trying to share basic info about RESPs so that you have that information that's valuable and helpful to yourself so that you can help or start to kind of plan for your future. And I mean, you're welcome to ask us questions or you're welcome to explore options at Libro if you'd like. But again, we're not trying to push anything at Libro. Now, I know Megan is on the call and I'm not sure if she's having trouble unmuting herself. I know I had that challenge when I first logged in too. But I'm guessing, Megan, you're still not able to unmute.
Yeah, Megan now is able to unmute.
Oh, perfect. Now
Thank you very much. You're a co-host. You can share your screen and welcome both of you. It's an honor actually to have both of you here. Thank you very much for your kind help and support to this community. Actually, this is one of our pillars. We're looking to educate community about sensitive information that might be well needed and unknown by others, and that would help them to go over a lot of obstacles, because knowledge, as we all know, is power. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today, and please, floor is yours.
Thanks. I'll just finish off. So again, I do a bit of like opening accounts and lending at Libro Credit Union. So I'll be presenting today with Megan. I'll let her introduce herself and then I'll start the presentation and she'll take on the first half and I'll finish us off later on.
All right, thank you, Dan. Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Deslippe. I'm an investment specialist with Libro. I've been with Libro since September and I've just started doing these presentations with Dan. So thank you very much for having me today. My role at Libro encompasses a bunch of different investing options. I talk to people about RSPs, tax-free savings, and RESPs, which we'll be learning about today, as well as some account opening and, like Dan said, coaching our owners.
I think everyone should be able to see the screen right now. If someone, okay, perfect. I'll take that thumbs up from Megan. Take her away.
Thank you. So today we're doing an introduction to RESPs. So RESPs are Registered Education Savings Plans. So a little bit of housekeeping first. Please leave yourself on mute when you're not speaking. We are going to be taking questions at the end. Feel free at that time to either unmute yourself or pop it in the chat. So who here has children? And who here is interested in saving for a child's education? So today we're going to learn what an RESP is, what the different types are, and how to decide what kind is best for your family. We'll also learn about free money to help you grow your RESP, who doesn't like free money, and much more.
If there are any additional questions that you have throughout the presentation, anything specific, then feel free to ask. We will try to answer the questions as best we can while also respecting everyone's time and making sure that we're done by 8 o'clock too.
So what is an RESP? A Registered Education Savings Plan is a great way to save money for education. It's registered with the Canadian government. It can be set up with anyone, but is commonly set up by parents and grandparents. True or false? The average hourly wage for university graduates is more than double that of high school graduates. That is true. So why should you have an RESP? If you don't open an RESP, your child could miss out on government grants that add up to thousands of dollars. For some of the grants, if you're eligible, you don't even have to contribute to the RESP. Some of them are tied to how much you put into the RESP. We'll review these grants later on in the presentation. This research by Calgary-based Financial Futures shows children with parents who opened RESPs are more likely to finish high school and 6 times more likely to do post-secondary studies. Post-secondary education, I'm sure as we all know, is very expensive and gets more expensive every year. According to Statistics Canada, these are the estimated costs of attending university. So in 2013 to 2014, the average university tuition was $5,772 per year. Books and supplies were $800 to $1,000 a year, and costs increased by 5% per year. This means that in 2023 to 2024, the average cost with books will be $9,750 a year for a university education. That's very expensive. Costs do vary depending on schooling and the area of study, but having money saved ahead of time makes these costs more affordable. Keep in mind as well, these costs don't include living expenses or residence, which also cost thousands of dollars per year. So now we're going to talk about the different government RESP grants that are available. All children who are Canadian residents and beneficiaries of an RESP are eligible for grants. The beneficiary is the child who is going to use the RESP for post-secondary education. These grants are available until the end of the year that the child turns 17. To open an RESP, the child must have a social insurance number. And now let's dive into the different grants that are available. So the Canadian Learning Bond is for families that receive the National Child Benefit and for children born on or after January 1st, 2004. If you're eligible, this bond doesn't require you to add to the RESP at all. $500 is contributed the first year the RESP is set up, and $100 each additional year until the maximum of $2,000 is reached, or the child turns 17. I can touch briefly on the BC Training and Education Savings Grants. This is only for BC residents, so I'm not sure if it applies to anybody here. So it is a one-time $1,200 deposit to an eligible child's RESP after the child turns 6. So the regular Canada Education Savings Grant is 20% contribution on every dollar that you contribute to the RESP, up to a maximum of $500 per year. This means that if you contribute $100 to an RESP, the government is going to add $20. You can also catch up on missed years, and the lifetime maximum per child is $7,200 for the grant. The Enhanced Canada Education Savings Grant is based on family income and adds an additional grant of either 10 or 20% on the first $500 that you can contribute. That means that if you contribute $100, the government could contribute up to $40 to your RESP. With this grant, you cannot catch up on missed years, and it does count towards the $7,200 lifetime maximum of the grant on the previous slide that we discussed. This chart here, it looks confusing, but it's a great chart that just shows if you only receive the Canada Learning Bond, which means you don't contribute any to your RESP at a 2% return, when your child turns 17, you're going to have $2,549 in an RESP for them to start their education. On the next slide here, this shows, once again, receiving the Canada Learning Bond, but you also contribute $1 a day into the RESP. At the same interest rate of 2%, and then you'll also see in the green that you're receiving the Canada Education Savings Grant and the Enhanced Savings Grant of the extra 20%. So the government is matching you 40%, plus the same bond that you received on the previous slide, adds up to your child having $13,708 saved for them for education. That is a lot of money, and what a great start for them to start their schooling. So true or false? If I open an RESP for my child and they don't go to college, I'll lose all that money. So that is false. Depending on the type of RESP, you will at least get to keep the money you contribute, but in some cases, you can keep the government grants and interest that you earned as well. So now we're going to look at the 3 types of RESPs. So there are individual, family, and group or pooled RESPs. Many of the words that we use in RESPs aren't used in everyday life. Like I said earlier, the beneficiary is the child who the RESP is for their education. There's also a subscriber, which is the person that is putting the money in for the RESP. So the first type is an individual plan. In this chart, it shows the subscriber as either the parent, grandparent, or primary caregiver that can open up a plan for their daughter, adopted son, or niece. An individual RESP, you don't have to be related to the person in order to open the RESP. An RESP beneficiary can have more than one RESP open for them. So for instance, the niece could have an RESP set up by an aunt or an uncle, and then also one set up by her parents or grandparents. I set up an individual plan for my son, but he will never attend post-secondary education. Can I transfer the RESP to my niece? The answer is no, but many plans will allow you to transfer it to a blood-related or adopted sibling. So now we're going to talk about family plans, which do allow transfers between siblings. This plan is ideal if you have more than one child. For this plan, the beneficiaries must be brothers or sisters by blood or adoption, and plans can only be opened by parents or grandparents. So for our RESPs, for the government, they consider parents and grandparents and siblings related, but cousins and aunts and uncles and nieces and nephews don't count. That's where the individual plan, where you don't have to be related, comes in. The grants that we discussed earlier are all per child. So if you have 2 children in a family plan, the maximum grant is $14,400 and the maximum Canada Learning Bond is $4,000. In a family plan, if one child doesn't attend post-secondary education, their grants can be transferred to their sibling that does. So you don't lose out on those grants.
Megan, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe, so I'm just speaking from personal experience. My wife and I, we had our first son, and shortly after he was born, we went to open an RESP. And when we set it up, we asked to make it a family plan right off the bat, so that if we decided to have more children, then we could just continue with the exact same plan.
Yes, that's correct. That's what a lot of people do. You can have a family plan and only have one beneficiary, and then add more children if you decide to have more.
Great, thanks.
So I've contributed for 10 years to a family plan, and now I have a new child. Should I add them to the family plan or start a new plan for them? It depends. There are time limits on how long an RESP can be opened for. So this is something that I would recommend that you discuss with the person that you opened your RESP with. Every situation is unique. So a group or a pooled plan is suitable for families that can commit to regularly scheduled contributions for the entire time until their child starts post-secondary education. We don't offer these plans at Libro, so I don't know a ton about them. With the individual and family plans, you get to decide on the contributions, and if you want to stop contributions at any time, that's completely up to you. With the grouped plan, you are in a contract to have these contributions. So the money is pooled with multiple people. You don't have to be related to the child to contribute to the plan. And these plans have more rules, and rules vary per plan. They're available through group plan dealers and not banks or credit unions. So I've been contributing to a group plan for 6 years, but I'm having trouble making the payments. Should I stop contributing? It almost never makes sense to stop contributing to your group plan because only your contributions minus any fees will be returned to you. So you're going to lose out on all the interest you've earned along with the government grants. I'm now going to pass it over to Dan.
Thank you very much, Megan. So you can open an RESP account at various types of financial institutions. So as Megan just explained, group plans can be opened only with specific types of organizations, but the more popular plans, individual plans or family plans, can be opened at just about any type of financial institution. So your bank, credit union, mutual fund company, investment firm, there are various different options there. So documentation that you will need. I believe I shared a PDF with Hatham prior to this presentation, and I'm not sure if it was shared with everyone, but I can share it with him after this, and he can email it out to the participants or everyone who's registered here. but it will have a bit of a summary of info that you will need to share to open an RESP. So for example, you will need the social insurance number and the birth certificate for the child or for the beneficiary for which the RESP will be open. Other things that you should know, however, about opening up an RESP are what sort of fees are expected to be paid and when those fees would be paid. Some institutions or some types of RESP plans that you set up may have fees, some won't. Some might be kind of built into the investment itself. So make sure that you ask those questions to your advisor to find out what fees there are, how you're being charged, and how it impacts your investment. Also, do you have to make regular contributions? How often? Is it monthly? Is it once a year? Is it a fixed contribution amount, or can it vary? What happens if you miss a scheduled contribution? What different investment options are available? When and how will payments be made to the beneficiary? So that's the child or the student from the plan. If you're looking at a particular plan, are the plan's rules more restrictive than any government's rules? If so, make sure that you get a written outline of the rules and how they differ. So there are lots of different questions to ask to make sure that you're familiar and you're aware of the plan that you're signing up for. A lot of those questions are in the participant handbook. And again, I'll make sure that I share it with Haitham this evening before I leave. Maybe I should ask, what questions does anyone have about RESPs or about the presentation so far?
Please, if anyone has a question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask ahead. And for the PDF file that Dan was talking about, I will share a link with the feedback form. So if there's anyone who would like it to be emailed to him, he can just he or she can put his or her email, and I would be more than happy to email it, as well as we can just post it onto our website within that session page. So that I think would be sufficient too for people who are not able to attend this session. We're now recording those sessions. We are now streaming them. So in order to ensure that more people can benefit from those information.
So I do have a couple of questions.
So could you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, my name's Tanya. I'm actually from Northwestern Ontario. I just happened to see the posting for it, so I thought it was very interesting to sign on. I do have a registered education savings plan in place for my 6-year-old at this time. I am unaware the rules around whether or not there's any stipulations in terms of what type of schooling is accepted. Like, does it have to be post-secondary level? Can it be trades at that time? Or is there any rules around that?
Tanya, thanks a lot for the question. That's a good question, actually. It is actually addressed in one of the slides later on, also in the participant handbook that I'll make sure that I share. There's some info included there, and there's even a website link so you can find what types of institutions would qualify.
Great, thank you.
So it doesn't answer your question right now, but I promise I will get to it.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions or anything else from anyone else? I see there's something in the chat, but I'm not sure what. Oh,
this is the feedback form. Actually, I would be very grateful if the attendants could fill it out, and if they can leave their email so I can just send it. We have a question here from Mazen. I'm not sure if you can see it, Dan.
Yeah, so I see, why are some companies charging a large penalty if you stop contributing that could reach 70%, or if you decide to switch to another institution?
I would guess that that is the group or pooled plan where you only receive your contributions back, and that might be why there's a large penalty if you stop contributing. I'm unsure on the answer of if you decide to switch to another institution though. My only thought with that is that sometimes based on your investment that you're in, the fee structure might be that you have to be invested for a certain period of time, or else there's fees on switching institutions, but the highest that usually is 7%.
Thanks for helping.
Other
out there, Megan.
question?
Yeah, other questions or?
Are you going to also get into like the 2030 or 20, like what that sort of means in terms of what type of plan it is?
The 2030, can you maybe tell me what you mean by that?
I think it's like a locked in time frame.
So I might kind of be able to answer that, but I think Megan might be better suited for this.
Okay.
Yes. How that works is that it sounds like your investment with, you said you have a 6-year-old. So what that happens with the 2030 plan is that they say, okay, your child is going to be going to school around the year 2030. So then they tailor the risk of the investment to be more minimized risk as your child gets closer to using those funds. So the target market for that investment is people that are going to start to use the funds around 2030. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just wondering if I should be on like a different higher level. He'll only be 14 at that time. So
that is something you could discuss with the person that you opened your RESP with. Possibly then it sounds like a 2035 might be better suited for you. They usually only go in 5-year increments.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tanya, this might be a weird coincidence, but I also have a 6-year-old and I'm also on a 2030 plan. And we're not related in any way. Just to say that, yes, I was given kind of the same advice and same thing, but I'm glad that Megan was here to explain it a little bit better than I could.
For sure.
Thanks. So if no other questions, then I'll jump back to the presentation. So I think I was just finishing by stating, there are a lot of questions to ask. Again, in that participant handbook, there is a list of questions that you can start with, but make sure that you're always speaking with your investment advisor and have a full understanding of the plan, of any rules, limitations, or parameters that there may be. So RESP products. So who has heard of any of these terms? So variable savings accounts, term deposits, guaranteed investment certificates. Have we heard of those before? Not heard of them? So I'll give a brief kind of some basic info about each of them. So variable savings accounts, term deposits, and guaranteed certificates. So I'll cover each of those actually right now. So variable savings accounts, term deposits, and GICs, or guaranteed investment certificates, are all investments that offer a guaranteed rate of return over a fixed period of time. So you know exactly how much you're going to earn from that investment. It won't vary at all. Many financial institutions use the phrase or the expression term deposit and GIC to mean the same thing, but not all financial institutions do. Some financial institutions have different terms, maturity, and rate structures for their term deposits and their GICs. So make sure you get the best product for your family's needs. The interest rate on these types of products is generally fairly low, but the risk is also low on all these three products. So you know that if you put $1,000 into any one of these products, you're going to get at least $1,000 out plus any interest that you would have earned. Mutual funds. So mutual funds, it's an investment program. It's funded by various shareholders, including yourself if you're investing into the mutual fund. And it trades in diversified holdings and is professionally managed. The interest or the rate of return can... Thank you. The interest or the rate of return can vary, and the risk can vary as well. So kind of going back to what Megan was just saying regarding that 2030 plan, that plan, it may be a bit riskier kind of at this point in time in 2022, but as we get to 2026, 27, 28, 29, 30, closer to that 2030 kind of maturity, it would become more and more conservative so that it's basically kind of protecting the initial investment. Stocks and bonds, I'll talk a little bit about them. So stocks are a type of security that gives ownership in a corporation and represents a claim on part of the corporation's assets or earnings. So you own a piece of that corporation. They must be purchased by a licensed investment dealer. Interest dividends can be high, but also can be nothing, or it can even actually show a loss. And risk can be high if you were to invest in stocks. Bonds. So a bond is a debt investment in which an investor loans money to an entity, so typically to a corporation or a government, that borrows the funds for a defined period of time at a variable or fixed interest rate. Bonds must be purchased by a licensed investment dealer as well. Company bonds can have high or low interest dividends. Risk can be low to high for various bonds, depending on the actual investment. Canada savings bonds, for example, are an example and are sold by the Canadian government. Canada savings bonds generally have low interest, but the risk is also low for Canada savings bonds. So contribution rules. Sorry, just going through my notes. So there is no annual limit to what you can put in to an RESP, but there is a lifetime limit per beneficiary. It's $50,000. But what happens if you contribute more than $50,000 to an RESP? So the answer is you're actually taxed at 1% per month for each month that you have too much funds in the RESP account. I don't think many people would have that problem where they're contributing way too much to the RESP. But it's a good problem if you have it. So how does the RESP work? So once the account is set up, the RESP can be very low maintenance depending on what kind of investment it is. I would personally recommend setting up an automatic deposit each month or to match your paychecks to ensure that money is always being added to the RESP. Doing so can take advantage of any government grants and also compound interest. So it's going to help it's going to help you earn interest on top of interest and help the RESP grow a little bit faster or better. So what qualifies as a post-secondary institution? So I think this answers the question. So there are various types of institutions, so universities in Canada and international universities, community colleges, vocational and technical colleges. If you want to be 100% sure that the school that your child wishes to attend qualifies, you can go to the two websites that are on the resource page. And again, that's in the participant handbook. I can mention them now, but again, you'll have links in the participant handbook that we share afterwards. So it's the Employment and Social Development Canada website. So just quickly, that's esdc.gc.ca. And then the other website is CanLearn. So that's CanLearn.ca. And again, I'll make sure to share that PDF again, and those links are in that PDF. Thought there was a question in the chat, but it looks like Megan already addressed it. So thank you very much. So what is a qualifying education program? So it's any type of post-secondary education, a program that must last at least 3 weeks or more consecutively, and a program requiring students to spend 10 hours or more per week on courses or work in the program. Again, the links that are in the participant handbook will help to answer specifically if the program or the school that you're looking for or at for your child, if that one specifically would qualify. So what can you use RESP money for? What types of expenses do you think you can use the funds for? Maybe you can write thoughts or suggestions into the chat. Or maybe I can just share some of them. So RESP funds can be used for tuition, rent, meals, living expenses, computer, laptop, desk, student fees. They can be used for just about anything. Basically, you need to withdraw funds from the RESP, you need to show that the student is attending a qualified post-secondary institution or a program. But then once you have the funds, they can generally be used for just about anything. So withdrawals 101. So this is just basic info about how to withdraw funds. So there are rules around withdrawing RESP money. But for this workshop, the most important thing to know is that there are 3 kinds of money in the RESP account. So one is the money that the subscriber puts in. So any contributions that you actually made for yourself. The second is the money that the government puts in. So that's any additional grants that they contributed. And third is the interest earned on both of the above amounts. So if a child does not go to university, the contributions you made are returned to you. You might be able to transfer the grant money and interest to another child, depending on the terms of your RESP. And Megan briefly touched on this earlier. If not, the grant money is returned to the government and interest either goes back to you, the contributor, as taxable income, but certain conditions have to be met, or it will be paid to a designated educational institution. How is an RESP taxed? The student who withdraws the money is taxed. In most cases, only the interest is taxable since the contribution was already taxed in the subscriber's hands. So if I'm the parent and I contributed $1,000 this year to an RESP, I already paid tax on that money, and that $1,000 that I contributed is after tax, so you wouldn't have to pay. You or the student, the beneficiary, wouldn't have to pay tax on that. The grant money, however, is taxable since nobody paid taxes on it when it was received. And again, that would be in the student's name that it's taxed. So what happens if your child decides to not pursue post-secondary education or if you cancel the contract? Consult with your financial institution on the consequences for canceling a plan, or if your child decides to not pursue post-secondary education. However, as I mentioned before, all grants issued would go back to the government. All original contributions would go back to you, the subscriber, without any tax penalty. In order to keep the interest that you accumulated over the years, there are some rules in place. So again, it's best to consult with the financial institution or your advisor to see if you qualify to keep those funds. So who wants free money? So the next step to figure out what plan will work for you is to meet with your financial institution to set one up and ask questions. Again, money can be used for tuition, housing, textbooks, purchasing a computer, or other tools. Proof of attending school is required to withdraw the funds. So normally, if we were presenting this in person, we would have that participant handbook, and it would include some resources. Again, I'll make sure that I share that, and there's even a little quiz on there too, asking questions. And with the participant handbook, Hatham would obviously have mine and Megan's contact info. So at least mine, you're free to share, and I'm happy to answer any questions too. This workshop, I'll just reiterate, is just an introduction to RESPs. It might raise some new questions, so hopefully the participant handbook can help answer some of those questions, or again, you can feel free to speak with your financial institution for more, or you can contact Megan or I at Libro. So what we covered today in this presentation was what an RESP is and how they work, how to decide what kind of RESP is best for you and your family, about free money to help grow your RESPs, and much, much more. So what other questions do we have?
I think there was a question from Mazen, but Megan already addressed it. So if there is any other question, I will yeah, participants can unmute themselves now. So if you have any question, please feel free to unmute yourself. And this session will be on our website, as well as all of the documents that Dan will gonna share with me. And please feel free to reach out if you have any question. And I would be very grateful if you can just fill out the feedback form. This form, let us know how we are doing, and if you can suggest any other topics that you are interested in, or any other ideas we might need to enhance our job. So
Hatham, I just forwarded that PowerPoint to you, so you should have it and you can share it with anyone.
I got it. I confirm that I got it. So
and again, feel free to share my contact info, and I'm happy to answer any questions
by all
afterwards
means.
too.
Any question? I think, yeah, we have something from Mazen here.
I see, besides RESPs, what other plans can be done? TEDP is not enough for education. I have to admit, Mazen, I'm sorry. Sorry for the typo. Okay, because I don't know what a TEDP is.
That's what I was gonna say. I think he means RESP.
Okay. What other types of plans can be done? Really, you'd probably just be looking at personal plans. So that might be a TFSA would be another sort of savings product that you can use, or just what are called non-registered savings. So that would just be any regular savings or GIC. As for saving for post-secondary institution or post-secondary schooling, that would be just about all that I would suggest. So other than that, you'd probably be looking at what other sources can you tap into to finance that post-secondary school. So that can be obviously applying for any student bursaries, grants, awards. So for example, Libro has, I think it's either $2,000 or $3,000 that we offer per branch to students. So anyone can apply, whether you have an account at Libro or not. You just have to be, I believe, between the ages of 17 and 25, and going to a post-secondary school. So apply for bursaries, grants. It's free money and it costs nothing but a little bit of time to apply.
I do have a question actually, and that question have been asked by one of the participants here, Sheikh Luay. So he asked me, can we use this plan to study outside Canada? Or do we have to use, to study in a Canadian institutions in order to use this plan?
It's a good question. I believe actually that I answered that question, that you can actually use funds from an RESP to attend a Canadian post-secondary institution or an international one as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in Canada.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
Mazen asked about grants, any sources for grants across Ontario. Not that I'm aware of. A Google search, there's a lot of different organizations, like Dan said. Libro gives out scholarships for students. So there is a lot of different scholarships and grants across Ontario for multiple different groups of people. So I would just Google that.
Aside from that, for financing post-secondary institution, I would always suggest to people, okay, if the RESPs that you have aren't enough, if any grants or bursaries still aren't enough, then I would suggest applying for OSAP or applying to the National Student Loan Service Center for any financing next. Borrowing from there for OSAP borrowing, it's a lot friendlier to the student and to the parents. It still may not be enough it might not be all you need, but the terms of the financing are much, again, I'll say friendlier to the borrower or to the student than that of an actual financial institution. So if you still don't get enough from OSAP or from the National Student Loan Service Center, you can contact your financial institution. Most financial institutions, if not all, would offer student loans. Libro offers student loans here. The main difference between a student loan at a financial institution and with OSAP is with a financial institution, you actually have to make interest payments, at least while you're in school. Whereas if the loan is with OSAP or with the National Student Loan Service Center, there are no payments required while you're a full-time student. So you don't have to make any interest payments or anything. Interest rates on both options are generally fairly low, and payments usually only start for each one, like whether it's OSAP or whether it's your financial institution, payments usually only start about 6 to 12 months after graduation. So I know that's not the free money that we were talking about earlier, but it's just another option to consider to finance post-secondary school. Yeah, so I see some financial institutions have a program for financing certain professional students, such as dentists, doctors, and optometrists. Yes, you're right. Some, I believe, big banks have sort of professional education programs, like you said, for dentists, for doctors, for accountants, for lawyers, and they would offer usually large amounts to some of those students or some of those applicants to finance their education.
So if there is no other question here, I would like to thank Daniel and Megan for their kind help and support and for this very informative session. Actually, we have Tanya here. Oh, yeah, that was not a question. Thank you. It was a very informative session. Thank you, Tanya, for joining us here. Everyone is welcome with RRAI. Feel free to join us anytime. We're gonna come with the new topics soon. So thank you very much for joining us. getting back to what I was saying, thank you very much for our kind presenters for their information and for their effort and support. I am so grateful, and actually such effort is what makes this country great, because we are looking to make this community a better place for everyone, a welcoming place for everyone, and this such effort is what make this country great. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, Megan. I'm so grateful. I'm so honored to be with you today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I would be very grateful if you can fill the feedback form. Stay safe, stay well, and we're looking forward to see you again with another session with Rights and Responsibilities Awareness Initiative. Thank you, and be well, everyone.
Thank you.